Enjoy the ride with Crystal Petry, consulted, so inspiring, pushing you to your dreams.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of 60 Minutes With. I'm your host, Crystal Petry. Today we are going to learn all about the arts, performing arts more specifically. We're going to find out why it's normally the first thing to cut, but one of the most important things, not only in our children's lives, but our lives as we grow older. And here to educate us on all things performing arts is Mr. Jonathan Williams.
Yes.
So welcome to the podcast, Mr.
Well,
Williams.
thanks for having me. I'm really excited about the interview.
Thank you. So when we first spoke on the phone and we were just talking, and I think I called it like drama,
Yes.
something like that, and you quickly corrected me and said, it's not drama, it's performing arts. So explain the difference between the two.
Well, actually, I didn't recall correcting you, but there is a difference. And the difference is drama is one specific discipline,
Okay.
and the performing arts include several.
Okay.
So in the performing arts, we have acting, we have singing, and we have movement or dance. And that's the difference in the two.
Oh,
Yes.
okay. So what you provide is performing arts. So
Yes.
all three of those disciplines.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. But you were very polite when you did it. I was not offended.
Okay, right.
Which is the point of my podcast, for me and my audience to be educated. Because whenever people speak about theater and drama, performing arts, they speak about it interchangeably, like it's all one thing. So first thing that we've learned so far, that it is not.
No.
It is
No.
not one thing. Okay, so why would you say performing arts is so important to children and adults?
Well, of course, it's an artistic expression. And for many children and for many adults, it is very, how can I describe it? It's one of those things that if you don't do, your life will not be the same because of it. For example, I'm an artist, I'm a singer.
Okay.
Now, if I didn't express myself in some way, either as a singer or in some other discipline within the arts, then I think that I would lack.
Okay.
And many times we sacrifice, and particularly when you have a family, and do other things just to have an income. But your life, when you are not doing what you're called to do, your life is not fulfilled.
Okay.
And that causes psychological problems, and it can cause physical problems. I'm not a psychologist or a sociologist, but I do know the effect that it has on one's life when you're not doing what you should do.
So do you think that everyone in some capacity should, I'm not going to say work, but at least engage in some kind of arts, whether that's theater or drama or the performing arts, some kind of way? Even, we have, of course, music, we have drawing and sketching and digital photography. All of those things are also considered arts.
Interesting question, and I'm sure that that's been debated for years and years and years, and probably will be for years and years. I think that we're all called to do something. It may not be specifically in the arts, but we're all called to do something. And if that's our lane, that's where we should be. I think there's a great deal more that artists that are not using their gift than there are not. Yes, and many times, for example, in the school system, children or youth are counseled away from the arts because they don't think that it's economically viable, which is not the case, but the information that they have is that it's not viable. And unfortunately, that causes a problem, a real conflict within the student, because they know what it is they should do, but because they're getting this information from someone they feel they can trust, then they are choosing another field. Let's go into nursing, let's go into law, let's go into education. But later in life, after they've worked several years, then they recognize that, well, I should have. Yeah,
Yes.
I should have gone into the arts. Regardless of the sacrifice that it takes to do that, you're more fulfilled if you pursue an area. That's the arts or any field for that matter. If that's something that you really are called to do, nothing else will satisfy you. Nothing
And
else.
I feel like with the arts in general, it brings you happiness.
Yes.
It brings you joy because it's like naturally we're all creative.
Yes.
And it allows for you to funnel that creativity into something. So I just feel like it's just so happy. It's
Yeah.
like a happy thing.
Yeah.
Now, you stated that you are a singer. So how did you get into the arts and singing and stuff like that?
Yeah. Well, interestingly enough, in the 4th grade, we had an audition for boys at our school. And it was, both boys and girls at the school, but they wanted a boy for this particular solo. Every boy in the school, and this was, I would imagine about maybe 300 to 400 students, if not more.
What?
The boys and girls.
Yes.
But they auditioned within their homeroom, every boy. It was a school-wide review, so to speak, in the summer. We used to have those all the time when I was growing up.
Okay.
It was an automatic. You knew that you were going to have some type of review throughout the school in the spring. And so this particular year, in my 4th grade year, all of the boys auditioned and 2 of us won for these 2 songs that they wanted us to sing. And since then, I've been singing ever since. Yeah.
Did you know that you could sing before that audition?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But there wasn't a venue or a way to express that other than in the church.
Right.
And so, but this was in the school, and so, as a matter of fact, a very good friend of mine, John Jenkins, got the other solo. And we later in life, we went through school together, through high school. We later in life, talking, we realized that each of us wanted to sing the other solo that each had. Yeah, it was really ironic. But and we went to college together at Howard U in D.C.
Okay. And
And so-
historically black college, university?
Yes. And so when we were talking in the music department at Howard, we discovered that each of us wanted to sing the song that the other was singing, which was amazing. But yeah, that's how I found out about that. Well, it really solidified it for me that there was a talent there that I should pursue.
And what about that experience, the trying out, getting the part, performing?
Interesting.
What about that experience made you stick with it?
I was successful.
Okay.
Yeah, did a great job. I mean, we had, at that time, it was in gymnasium. We didn't have an auditorium, and so we had to put seats out, and so it was packed with parents and students that night. And it was, I did a great job. And so I remembered that. I remembered the response of the audience and so forth, and so it encouraged me to move on in that area.
And you went to Howard University. What was your major?
Voice.
Voice.
Yeah,
I didn't even
major
know they
voice.
had a major for that.
Really?
No.
Now that is surprising to me. Oh, we need to talk about this
Yes.
because, yeah, there's a major in all aspects of the arts.
Really? So
Yeah.
what do you learn with that major as
How
voice?
to sing well and how to sing in a way that preserves your voice.
Really? Is that a 4-year degree or 2-year? I literally
Yes.
have never heard of this.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's a 4-year degree.
4 years.
A
Okay.
bachelor's, yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's interesting that
Yeah.
someone would not know that a degree program is offered at many conservatories and music schools across this country. That's what Juilliard is all about, and several others. In the
Well, I've
country.
heard of Juilliard, and I knew that they had, like theater and performing arts and things, but like at the other colleges, I did not know that was a degree plan.
Absolutely. The performing arts, generally, they have a vocal program, they'll have a band program, and they'll have a drama program.
Okay.
And dance. Those 4 disciplines will always be a part. Now, they may start out with 1 or 2, but they generally are working towards offering all 4.
So, of course, you are a singer with a 4-year degree
Right.
in this discipline. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Have you ever done any acting or anything like that?
Ironically, yes and no.
Okay.
Acting was not something that I pursued personally, but I saw that my students had talent that needed to be developed and explored. And so this is my 3rd career. Well, the Center for the Performing Arts is my 4th career, I should say.
Wow.
3rd career was in the school system, in the public school system. And so I thought, when moving back to Beaumont, because I lived in D.C. for 15 years.
Okay.
And then got a call and they told me that my parents were ill, and so I moved back to help take care of them. Well, I had to have a means of income.
Right.
What I was doing at the time was in telecommunications and sales, but that didn't transfer well to Beaumont. So I had a degree in music, and so I just simply needed to get a certification. So 2 different areas. One is
Right.
for performance, and the other is, to educate others in the arts. And so I taught at Martin Elementary for 9 years. And when I started...
Were you teaching, what were you teaching?
I was teaching choir.
Okay, choir.
Yeah. And so I thought that I was going to be bored, stiff. I mean, really, really bored teaching elementary school. Never in my life ever wanted to teach elementary school.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It could be a handful.
well, that's an understatement when it comes to a classroom full of kindergartners, It was amazing. But what I found was that it was the most fulfilling thing I'd ever experienced. And the reason was I was able to create a program that was unique to our kids.
Okay.
And by our, I mean the Black community. We have so much talent. It is just phenomenal, particularly in Beaumont. And so what I did was, initially we were only doing choral music, where students would stand and they would sing. And so, but that requires a certain discipline in terms of being able to stand still and that sort of thing.
Right.
Well, these are young kids. They need to
And you
move.
cannot expect, yes.
Well, I could.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean that they
They
would do
will.
it, right?
Okay.
So I wanted to come up with an idea that would help them in that area. And so I decided to move into musical theater.
Okay.
I had never done it before. But
So
it's
was
music.
this something offered at the school or something you created?
It's something that I created for the students at the school. It had never been done before, to my knowledge, in the district. And so what we did was I identified a show that I thought the kids would enjoy. It was called Christmas at the OK Corral.
Okay.
It was a Western, obviously. And the kids, I mean, they soaked it up.
Oh.
And so we had to come up with costuming and sets and props. And this was all new to me, too. So I was learning in this process.
As
right?
you were going.
Yeah, because I was a singer. And, we'd done some drama along with singing, but it wasn't musical theater. It was in the classical field. And so this was all new to me, right? But the kids, I mean, they soaked it up, and they showed me that, yeah, this was the right direction to go. And so out of that idea, we developed a touring group that performed at the White House in D.C.
with the Morton Elementary kids?
Yes, yes, absolutely. When
What
I
year was
say we
this?
have talent, this was at 99. Yeah, this was during the Clinton administration. Mhm.
And they went to the White House and performed?
Yes, yes, 35 kids from Beaumont, Texas. I have, in my portfolio, I have all of the articles, the Beaumont Enterprise, first page, and we were fundraising. It took us, it's an interesting process when you are auditioning for performance at the White House because they have to vet everyone, including the sweeper if they're going with you, right? And so they only gave us like 3 months to raise $24,000.
Wow.
And this, as far as I was concerned, this was an opportunity of a lifetime.
It is.
And so we were going to raise that money regardless, right? So we had ABC, CBS, NBC, all of the stations covered the students' rehearsals and or performance. The Enterprise came out and did a front page article on, Martin Elementary students performing at the White House, and the money poured in. It poured in. We were able to take that trip, obviously.
Yes.
And it was one of the greatest experiences of my professional life. I mean, I'd lived in D.C. for 15 years and had performed at the White House with Howard University Concert Choir. And my thinking was, if we can do this as a college choir, why can't an elementary choir do it? And I remember asking some associates of mine in D.C. who was associated with the White House in different areas, right? I asked them, well, how would I go about performing there? What is the process? Then they just kind of chuckled.
Yeah.
Like, well, why would you need to know that, right? And I said, you wait and see, right? I was thinking to myself,
Yes.
right? And so what I did was I called the White House. And they referred me to the secretary's office that was responsible for entertainment. And I asked her what the process was. She told me what it was. I submitted my application and was chosen. Excuse me, I think there was maybe, this was during the time period that they were showing the White House. They had different states to create trees, and they would decorate the tree to represent their state.
Oh, wow, okay.
And I don't know if you were familiar with that, but they had tours of the White House, and each room they would have a different tree, or each hall or corridor, they would have a different tree representing a state. And so they also had talent to come in and to entertain the guests that were touring the White House.
Okay.
This was when touring the White House was a big deal. I mean, when you go to D.C., you had to tour the White House, right? So all of those folks would get this performance and these trees representing the various states as they would tour the White House.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, yeah. Well, then we had 9/11.
Right.
The year after we toured.
Okay.
We were planning to go back.
Oh.
But,
Of course,
parents-
everything, yes.
No, that wasn't happening. So,
No.
but it was an amazing opportunity. I was pinching myself going down the east hallway to where we were performing, as an educator, just as a person, period. To be able to bring this type of opportunity to your students is just amazing. And it was because, I think, of my experience at Howard, I knew that, we could do, and these students could do whatever they put their minds to do. And in many cases, it's only limited to the vision of the teacher in the classroom.
It is.
And so that's really what drove that idea of bringing students to the White House. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And before that, I was on a training trip in L.A., and this is how we started touring. That wasn't our first tour. Our first tour was to Atlanta.
And the same Morton Elementary kids.
Yes, yes. These kids, that's what I'm saying, they are so talented. And just in this area, period. When I went to Howard, my professor told me that there was, and he was from Carolina, teaching in D.C. and said, oh, there's a lot of talent in Beaumont, Texas. I didn't know they knew the name Beaumont.
Exactly.
He knew of the city. And so, I really want the talent, the ability that these kids have to be known, not only in this area, but throughout the country, because it is amazing. It really is. We're known for athletics, of
Right.
course.
Football, basketball, yes.
Talented athletes. We also have talented performing artists in the area.
Now, your fourth career, as you mentioned earlier, it's performing arts for the community.
Yes.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Do you write the plays, produce the plays, direct the plays? What all are you
Well, that's a
involved
whole
in?
discipline in itself.
Okay.
I don't, although I have commissioned a play or musical play to be written.
What does that mean, commissioned?
Commission mean I paid someone to write one for us
Okay.
with our students in mind. It was called African Millennial Village. This was during the change in the millennial year. And so we wanted to do something I felt that our kids could relate to, so we set it in an African village.
Okay.
And so that was commissioned, I think it was in 2000 or 2001, yes. I don't mind, incorporating others. If you have a talent in that area, that's not my talent.
Okay.
Writing is not my talent, but I certainly recognize those who do, and we can collaborate on that. As a matter of fact, I have an idea now that I'd like to pursue a famous character of history, and we're pursuing the idea of writing a musical play.
Okay. Now, you are the artistic director.
Artistic director, yes.
What is that role? What is that responsibility?
Well, the artistic director is responsible for the final product of a show. So you have directors that report to the artistic director. So there's a director in music, there's a director in dance, in acting, and the technical aspects of the show. And all those directors report to the artistic director, who's responsible for the overall look and feel and projection of the production.
Now, how do you select which plays or performances you bring to Beaumont, Texas?
That's a good question. Our mission is to the black community primarily.
Okay.
We're open to others, obviously, because if you're producing a good product, anyone can gain from that product, gain knowledge, gain experience, etc. But we have been left out and omitted and ignored and all of the above for so many years. I think it's important that our kids have opportunity in the performing arts. When I came through school, I didn't have a mentor in this area. I think that is so important. Why have our next generation to reinvent the wheel when there are others out there who have the experience, who can teach them, how to do this, how to promote yourself as an artist, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's why we do what we do.
And where do you find your technical directors?
Well, that's a challenge because there's not a lot of them out there that's not already committed to a company. Last year, we hired a tech director from Houston who's originally from Port Arthur.
Okay.
And he was excited about coming. Harold Haynes is his name. He was excited about coming and sharing with the students, and it really augmented our show. I mean, it made it put the icing on the cake, so to speak, because I'm not a tech director, although I wear the hat because I must wear the hat in order to get that aspect of the show completed. But I don't have the building skills that it needs to build a set. That's important.
Right.
So, I did what I needed to do, but I would hire different people to come in and help with different aspects of the technical parts of the stage. Well, he came in, he built several set pieces for The Lion King in last summer's camp. And it put the icing on the cake. We had, I think it was 4 or 5 set pieces that we rolled onto and took off the stage, depending on the scene and what have you. And it really, really made a big difference. The kids had a ball. Pride Rock, before he came, I employed the Ensemble Theater of Houston's tech director to build certain things for me.
Wow, okay.
Which was a great experience as well.
Yes.
But they were not on site with us.
Okay.
This was when I was teaching at the school. And the pieces were really nice. I enjoyed them. We use them today even.
I was going to ask, so you get to keep the pieces?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. When you're paying that person to make that, then, they're yours to keep unless you're borrowing something from a theater company. And in that case, they're returned. But this year, we took it to another level, and we had him to come in and be a part of our team, the staff, and it was great having him. He's really an experienced educator. He's taught at the high school, at the college level, et cetera, and brought an amazing perspective to the show.
How many plays do you put on a year?
We, before pandemic or after,
Both.
Organizations really have to refer to that because
Yes.
Before we did 3 to 4
Okay.
per year, including the summer camp. But now it's been 2. And we've just started producing shows that adults would do with this dinner theater that we did this past weekend.
Okay.
And so we had to not rehearse because of the pandemic, coming together. That was just too risky. And so we decided to continue our programming for students virtually. And so we did workshops, and I brought in a puppeteer and so forth. And so we had some programming for our students, and that worked well, for what it is. But
What's a puppeteer?
They do puppet shows
Oh,
for the younger kids.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, excellent person, Crystal Ray, who is a playwright, and we've actually produced one of her shows during the pandemic called Tide, which was about a father of one of the girls who was killed in the Alabama bombing in the early 60s. And so she did a wonderful job. She did an amazing job of producing and writing that show. It's a one-man show. It's just the father's perspective. And so, but it's wonderfully written. And so she's also a puppeteer. And so she did some puppetry at a workshop for us. And so the kids enjoyed it. The puppets actually look like the kids. They were
What?
puppets of color, yes.
Yeah.
The kids just got a kick out of that. They really, really
Wow.
enjoyed it. Yeah. So we have, since then, brought our dinner theater event back to Beaumont. Folks love the dinner theater event. And initially, we had Crystal in another show that she did called Kings. And she was she's also an actor. And so she starred in that show, and the folks enjoyed it. And so, to make a long story short, we're now vamping up to getting back to the 3 or 4. So we're searching now for other shows that we can do. Our actors are really kind of biting at the bit to get back on stage, you know.
Right.
And so we're looking for shows now that we can do.
When do you determine when you're going to do the shows? So do you say, okay, every spring I'm going to do a show, or every winter? Is there a certain time during the year that you like to put your shows on, and why?
Well, we create a season of about 3 to 4 shows.
Okay.
And because we are an all-volunteer organization, we are only producing one show, perhaps a quarter.
Okay.
We want to give ourselves time so that we can advertise, we can get the audience in that's needed to support the show. And so that's really how we determine that, is we want to give ourselves enough time to build a show that we feel would represent us well.
Okay. And you said you're, looking at some shows now. When you're looking at shows to bring here, what are you looking for exactly? Are you looking for the aha, the drama, the scale? What exactly are you looking
All
for?
of the above.
Okay.
And even more specific, we're looking for something that would speak to the Black community in some way.
Okay.
Because there's other performing arts organizations here in the city that have programming in live theater, but does not always speak to our experience. And so I feel an obligation to offer programming that I feel the audience will enjoy and will speak to their experience and really validate them as a people. Many times the arts is an expression, an outward expression of a community. And so we want to speak to that. We want to address that. And that's how we make our choices.
Okay, excellent. Now, you spoke about briefly your summer camp. So tell me about that. How long has your summer camps been going on?
This is our 7th year. And we started collaborating with a local church, West Tabernacle. At the time, the Pastor Jerry High was a part of our board of directors, and he offered their facility for the summer because the camp is a month long.
Okay.
For the entire month of June, we meet from 8 a.m. until 3:30 p.m.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
We have 5-year-olds through 18-year-olds at camp for an entire month. And so, yeah, that's, we enjoy that quite a bit. Yeah.
Now, in 2023, your summer camp was The Lion King. We have some pictures showing that. Why was that selected as the play for this summer?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm not a writer. Not by no stretch of the imagination.
Yes.
I have ideas.
Yes.
I can come up with a concept, but I'll, employ someone to write it. And so, The Lion King, I thought, spoke to our experience as a community. Even though it was written by, a person of another hue, it still highlights some of the experiences of Africa. It's a collage, if you will, of several countries in Africa. Many people don't know that. They're thinking that
Exactly.
it highlights one,
Yes.
but no, it's
Africa is a continent.
it's a continent.
Yes.
And those things that they used to produce The Lion King came out of several countries of the continent of Africa. And so I felt the kids would enjoy it. I love the music of The Lion King.
It is good.
Show. It's a Disney show. And you pay dearly to perform.
I was going to ask about that. Do you have to pay?
Oh, yes.
Do you have to get permission also?
That as well.
And how long does
Yeah.
that take, for them to say, yes, you can do this?
Well, you submit an application. Everything's done online these days. And
Okay.
so you go online, you submit an application. And within a week or two, they get back with you to let you know if you have permission to do the show.
Okay.
And generally, they will say yes. Sometimes there are restrictions, and those restrictions would be if another organization is having the same show in that area. That's the only time that they would deny it, is that someone else is doing it. And so once the application is approved, then they send you a contract. And that contract will outline where you're producing the show, how many people you're expecting in the audience, how many shows or showings you're actually doing of that production.
Okay.
All of that plays a part in how much you're going to pay.
Really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
And so, and the more you do, the more it costs.
Yes.
Like, for example, The Lion King costs us almost $2,000. That's just to have the rights to do the show.
Really?
Now, Disney,
And that's what you pay Disney, $2,000?
it's called Musical Theater International. They represent Disney,
Okay.
these shows, and it's out of New York. And so, but Disney's pretty big about copyright. And so if you do a show without getting permission or licensing, they will sue you.
Yes.
And as an organization, you don't want to.
Not by Disney.
Not by Disney, not by anyone, but
Yes.
especially Disney. So, you know, you go through the right channels and you get permission to do that. And so, but Disney, the show is such a great show and it's well put together. They actually give you, with the licensing, a director's book
Okay.
that has, you know, experiences of former directors, that has all the music, it has a musical track the students can rehearse with, and then they have one that you use for your performances in case you are not doing a live orchestra or a live band. They offer that track for the kids to perform by. And they offer suggestions for costuming, for lighting, et cetera, and it's all in this director's book. But then I have to put my own touch on it, so it speaks to us as a community. And that's what hopefully your viewers will see in some of the pictures that we have. Yes.
And you definitely sent me some beautiful pictures, and we have the pictures of like the makeup and the costumes.
Right.
So, do you hire somebody? How does that part come up? How does that become a part of the show?
Yes.
Do you get like makeup artists, costume designers?
Yeah, all of the above. We had mentioned earlier off camera that I know someone, Georgia Williams, who it just happened to be my sister-in-law, but she is a talented individual. I mean, just exceptionally talented. And I want to mention Charlton Pollard, class of '72. I want to shout out to you all. She was a part of, and my brother were a part of that class. But she is so creative. The costuming that we have now, a good portion of it, I would say about maybe 70 to 80% of the costuming is from her design.
Okay.
And
that she like made?
That she created, she designed, and she made, you know, with inspiration from the touring cast of The Lion King. And she did beading, all hand beaded on costuming. When you see it, you'll see what I mean. It was hand beaded costume, hand painted costuming.
Wow.
She was phenomenal. It's amazing when you have a costumer that you just give the vision of the show to, and they come back and exceed your expectations. Well, that's what she did. And I mean, she made costuming for 35 students initially. I did the show in Houston several years back, and she made the costuming for that show. And so we were able to borrow those costumes from that show, and she, I mean, it's phenomenal. phenomenal. And the kids really enjoy it when they have put in the work that they do, because we require them to be excellent. We don't just, we don't settle for just anything. No.
Right.
The show has to be a show that not only a mother would love, but a community would love.
Right.
And so we do it with fun. I mean, the kids enjoy what they're doing in the learning process. But we require that they produce a good show. And so when we come in with costuming that augments what they're doing in their character, they just light up.
Wow.
They enjoy that process so much, you know. A costumer initially come in and they do measurements. We get all of the measurements for those characters sent to the costumer, or they will come in and do it themselves. And then they'll do a fitting, maybe 1 or 2 fittings after that. They will make the costume, and then they'll come in and fit to make sure that it's adjusted and altered the way that it needs to be. And the kids do a dress rehearsal.
Okay.
And that is an interesting experience with children ages 5 through 17, 18. That's a real interesting experience. But the kids get such a kick out of it, and they, oh my gosh, their characters come alive on stage. And so, yeah, it's a process.
How many people do you need to put on a production like The Lion King?
The Lion King, oh gosh, that's a good question and a hard question to answer, because it's all based on the show and how many people are in the show and so forth. And so it could range, depending on what show you decide on, anywhere from 2 people to 30 people backstage.
Okay.
Yeah, that's including your audio person, your lighting person, your makeup person, your wig person, your costumer, your set designer. All of those people are directors, and then they have people who work underneath them, and some of those people have people that work underneath them. So depending on how elaborate you want the show to be will determine the number of people that you need for that show.
And do you have just one wig person, one makeup person? Or you have like maybe 2 makeup person and then people that work under them?
We have one director
Okay.
of each discipline. For example, you mentioned makeup. Now, I've really been fortunate. When I taught in Houston, there was a parent who was just really good at what she did. And I did a workshop. As a matter of fact, in my research, I discovered that there was a traveling troupe of the Lion King that came through Houston a year or so before we did our show. And I called, it was at Jones Hall, downtown Houston, Theater District, and asked them who was the makeup artist, or who are the makeup artists, and they referred me to this particular person. And so I was able to get her to come out, and she did a workshop for us.
Wow.
And that's how we learned how to do the makeup for the show, was through the artist who actually was responsible for Rafiki, the character in The Lion King. She did makeup for Rafiki in the Broadway touring company.
No, she didn't.
Yes, she did.
Wow.
And she came and shared that. Of course, there's copyright on the actual way that they do their makeup on Broadway and in the touring company. But she made adjustments to that, and she was able to share that. That parent, one of the parents that was in that workshop, is still working with me today. Yes. And her son, who is about 27 now, is grown with the family, but she still is giving back through being in charge of our makeup. So she does makeup plots. A plot is, a drawing of how the makeup should look on an artist once
Like
it's
they
done.
draw it out on a piece of paper?
They draw it out in pencil color on a piece of paper, yes. And so she does the drawings, She submits them, we discuss them, all goes well, then we implement that. And,
Okay.
this year, for The Lion King, we had a team of about maybe 6 to 10 people, because we had 60 kids that we had to do makeup for. So, I mean, it was talk about Grand Central Station. Okay, you're done. Next.
Next.
And she led that team well, and I thought they did an amazing job with the makeup for this production.
I know you have you have to have a lot of volunteers that help you with this. Do
Yes.
you have any members or staff that are paid? And how do you determine who you pay?
We have, for the summer only, the summer staff is paid.
Okay.
And that is the acting coach, the dance instructor, we call it movement, the singing instructor. We have an administrator, and we, as I mentioned, had a tech director. And so those staff members are paid, but that's just for the summer camp.
Okay.
Otherwise, it's all volunteer. And this summer, we were fortunate to have 60 to 70 volunteers throughout the month-long camp and through the run of the show to assist us. Yeah.
What would you say is the emotional benefit for adults and children that participate in performing arts?
Wow. Well, it's different for each individual, and I think it's important to know, particularly if the student or artist is doing this because they have a need to do it. It's almost like the need to drink water or the need to eat.
Oh, I see what you're
It is an
saying.
intrinsic thing within you to do, and that's why we're offering the services that we do, because there's so much talent in the area that it meets that emotional need. If you are, for example, if you are a cook and the things that you cook satisfy others in terms of their taste and so forth, that's satisfying to you. I'm not a psychologist and so forth, so I don't know about all of the neuro involvement and so forth, but I do know that you get a satisfaction from doing what you do on stage. Yes.
And what about the intellectual? How does that help
Well,
within the performing arts? Because
Right.
there's a lot of reading, there's
yeah.
a lot that goes into it.
Well, there is, and there are a number of disciplines that are used in producing a show. As you said, you're using your reading skills, you're using your logic skills, you are using all aspects of your brain in order to produce what we see on stage, because you have to analyze these characters in order to bring them alive on stage. And when we're teaching the skill of producing a character, we always give that character a name. We have the student or adult to give it a name. Why?
Oh, you just make up a name?
Yeah.
Okay.
How do you see this, who do you see or what do you see this character becoming on stage? And this helps them to visualize what they will do on stage. A good example is the singer, what's her name, from Houston?
Beyonce.
Beyonce. Her character, if you will, on stage is
does.
Sasha Fierce, right?
Yes.
That's all developing a character. She becomes that character.
Yes.
Now, she has thought about that long before she gets on stage.
Exactly.
And who and what that character represents to her. And so we do the same thing in the performing arts. and we apply it to each discipline.
How does acting, and of course I want your opinion, I know you're not a psychiatrist or anything like that, but how do you feel like acting, performing arts helps people become who they truly are?
It helps you become a more rounded person because you're doing what you really love to do. If you are in activities in general in your life, things that you want to do, things that you are aspiring to do, it makes you a better person. If you're doing things that you dread, or things that you resent, or things that you wish you didn't have to do, it creates all sorts of negative feelings within you as a person. Opposite of that is if you're doing something that you really enjoy doing,
Right.
then you flourish. You do your very best at what you're doing, and so it makes you a better person.
I read something, this was a while ago, of course it was on the internet, but it said you can tell how you feel about a career or a choice by how you feel Sunday night before you have to go to it Monday.
Right.
Yes, before you have to go to it Monday.
It's true.
Yes.
If you are dreading going into work on Monday, that's probably not the best place for
Exactly,
you.
yeah.
Know? But many people have to make those choices because of family responsibilities, etc. But the best thing, and we're finding it more so, I think this generation is finding courage to do what they feel called to do, even if it is a huge risk for them or for their families. They find the courage to do that. And then, they're a better person as a result.
Is performing arts, and I'm specifically talking about like people who are shy or introvert, does performing arts and being on the stage, singing and dancing, does that help them find their voice and their confidence?
Absolutely, because I'm really an introvert.
Are you?
Absolutely.
No.
Absolutely. But this is something that I enjoy doing. This is something that I excel in, and something that I think is of service to our community. And so within that context, I become the better me. And so yes, it does. It brings you out as a person.
Do you think more people should be in the performing arts? I mean, I feel like 2023, 2024, a lot of people are doing performing arts. Even a lot of people do it on the internet. They have the TikTok videos and all of this, But do you think more people should be in performing arts?
I think I think they should explore the idea of being a part of the performing arts. Now, not everyone, I think, should be on stage.
Right.
There are some people who excel amazingly backstage. I mean, if you ask them to build a set, they come alive because their creative juices start, They are able to come up with concepts and ideas and ways of doing things that perhaps you and I wouldn't, because that's not our area of expertise.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think exploring the performing arts would be a good thing, a really, really good thing. And you'll know if it's for you or not. And it may be that another aspect of the performing arts would be best for you as opposed to the stage, but yet affiliated with, associated with the arts.
But really, at least give it a chance.
Absolutely.
Give it a try.
Absolutely. And I've had adults who thought, that wasn't for them, and they got on stage and got that bug, and the audience responded, and you cannot pull them off of the stage.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's happened for many of our kids too. We have several examples of that. One was a young man who was, he was so comfortable with, doing computer work, he would stay, his mother explained to us, shared with us that, he would be in his room all the time just on the computers, just, playing games or whatever on the computer. And he saw one of our shows. And through seeing one of the shows, it was the Gospel According to Scrooge. he thought, okay, well, maybe I could do that. And one opportunity came, he kind of chickened out. And another opportunity came, he said, okay, Mom, I want to go to a rehearsal.
Yes.
He came to the rehearsal, and now you cannot keep him away from the stage. His mom said when he was in rehearsal, he lit up. She had never seen a smile like that on his face.
Wow.
Now, that is transformation. And that is from a child who was introverted, who was to himself, who was not very social. You know, he preferred being on a computer by himself. But there is community that's built within rehearsals and performances that you don't gain in any other way. And so he has friends now that he wouldn't have had had he not participated in the show.
Wow, that's such a great example.
Yeah, there's many, many more. But there's another that if we have time, I can share with you. A young lady had cancer. In her early years. She was, if I'm not mistaken, between the ages of 4, 7, somewhere along in there, and she had cancer. They had to remove one of her kidneys. And so that limited her ability to be an athlete. And so her mom thought, okay, well, she can't participate because she only had one kidney, and that might be compromised if she's on an athletic field or what have you, and they didn't want to chance that. And so she thought she would, her mom thought, okay, well, let's try musical theater. The girl auditioned and got one of the main roles in the show.
Was that her first time?
Her first time.
What?
She was just talented that way. And that was a discovery for her. She did not know that she had the talent. Or at least, you know, that she would display in public, you know.
Yes.
When you can sing, you know that you can sing. It's just that you haven't experienced singing in front of an audience or what have you. But her mom said she came alive by participating in the show. And one experience, we did The Lion King back in 2019 here in Beaumont as well. And she played the role of Rafiki, one of the main characters. Opens the show. She opened the show. This was a girl who had never performed before, right? And afterwards, because of the makeup and so forth, this was the artist who showed us how to do all of this. And I mean, it's really well done. The girl after the show had all of the little young kids coming to her wanting to get her autograph.
Oh, wow.
Her autograph. And she was so amazed by that. She said, Mr. Williams, they asked me for my autograph. I said, oh,
wow.
That was amazing to her.
Yes.
You know? And so needless to say, she got the bug and she really enjoyed that experience.
When you are casting, and I know we've been talking about The Lion King, but I'm just in general, when you're casting your actors and your actresses, what are you looking for in them?
What are we considering?
Yes.
Well, first of all, we are a training source for our students. We educate, we offer them opportunities to learn skills. And so in order to be a part of any show or the camp, there's no particular requirement because we want to educate.
Okay.
When we invite a group to come to an audition for a show with adults, then we look at what abilities they have innately. And if they're auditioning for a part, we determine how that audition made us feel as an audience. If we were convinced that they were that character, we consider them for that character. If there are more than one person, then we have them both do the same line. And so we decide as a group, the other directors, which person we feel would be best for the role. And it may be age, it may be maturity, it may be the look. And many times when artists go in, it's important not to take it personal because they're looking for a certain look or a certain height or a certain weight, and so it's not personal to them. It's just that that's what they need for that character.
Isn't that hard though, not to take the no personally?
It is.
Even though, maybe you don't have the look or the accent or whatever. I just feel like it's so hard not to take the no personally. Because you're telling me no, not necessarily the character.
Right. And that's a part of growing as an artist, that it is not you that they're rejecting. They are simply looking for a certain look and or sound or technique suited for that particular character.
And when people audition, I'm assuming they come in and they do it in person with you and the other directors, correct?
Yes.
How do you let people know that you are auditioning for a play?
Social media
has
really been our friend. And so we share it with current artists and they tell their friends. And that's a really good source because they know if their friend is talented or not. And so many of the characters in a show, as a matter of fact, I think, if I'm not mistaken, one person that I knew helped me to cast in The Gospel According to Scrooge, maybe 5 or 6 characters, lead characters.
One person?
One person, just from their network.
Yeah.
Now they're a singer, so they knew a lot of singers and actors and so forth, and had done that over the years. And so that was a really good resource for us. So we use social media, and we also ask our current participants if they would announce and share with people they know.
We have spoken at length, and I'm in total agreement, all the benefits that come with performing arts and theater and drama and singing. Why do you think that in schools, and sometimes even in the community, those divisions are the first ones to get cut? If there's not enough money, the first thing to go is the performing arts, the singing, the drama.
Well, I think, and this is my personal opinion, obviously, I think the people who are making those decisions don't realize how valuable the performing arts are. Many of them have not had experiences in performing arts, or they had a negative experience in performing arts. And so they feel if it's not a, quote, core subject, that it's expendable. Not the case. We have music and or acting or dance in all aspects of our lives. If we would examine our lives day to day, we could see that they are part of our community, part of our culture, and that's important. Now, if we're speaking of survival, that's a whole nother, aspect of things. But when you are developing a community, which we are, a society, the performing arts is an amazing part of that. It's an expression of oneself, vocally, emotionally, because all of that is involved in the arts. And so they find, I think now, that when they include the performing arts, that they get a much better student. They really do. They do. And so I'm really amazed and quite excited about BISD's position on the performing arts. And so I feel that Dr. Allen appreciates it and know that there's value in it. And so we partner with Beaumont Independent School District to bring our summer camp to area students. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So how does that partnership look and work?
Well, they have summer school at Westbrook High School.
Yes.
The facility is being used. It's open. So why not maximize the use of the facility? And so they are providing a source of building. You know, we partner with area organizations to provide facilities because we don't have a building as a performing organization. And so we partner with other organizations. When we started out, we were partnering with West Tab, with Cathedral, with one city church to do our productions. Well, we're doing the same with BISD.
Okay.
And so during the summer months, we are at Westbrook High School.
When it comes to acting, is that something that you naturally, like people are naturally able to act, or is that something that you need to be taught how to do?
It's some of both.
Okay.
Yeah, so you, as in any area, you have many times an innate ability, but you increase that skill by taking a course or by getting critiques, or you increase your ability to act or to dance or to sing. One way is going to school. Years and years and years ago, we had mentoring programs. We call them apprenticeships. And so you would just simply walk on side of this person and learn what they know.
Yeah.
In the building trades, many times. But it's the same way with singers. Singers would shadow a person and learn their techniques.
And they would freely and willingly give that?
Well, it's not freely. But I mean, it would cost you in some cases. Or mentors would, see the talent in a student and just want to be a part of their development. And so they may not charge, or they may not charge as much as they would normally for a service. Yeah.
Now, I know earlier in the podcast you were talking about your Martin Elementary students. You took them on the road to Washington, D.C., to Atlanta. Your plays that you do now, do you take those on the road, or do they stay in Beaumont, Texas?
Well, the organization is still in the development stages. We have toured once with the Gospel According to Scrooge. We performed in Houston. But ultimately, we want to tour.
Okay.
I love touring, and I think it brings an experienced touring artist that is unlike anything. And so that's our ultimate goal, is to tour. And we do that locally. I started out at Martin by touring around the city at different schools, different organizations, and so it developed into touring at the White House.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what do you love so much about touring?
That's interesting. It's I don't know that I can put my hands on what aspect of it I enjoy. I think it is bringing. My first experience touring was with Houston Tillotson in Austin. I went to Houston Tillotson for a year, and we toured the Midwest. And so it brought to me experiences that I'd never had. I was meeting new people, experiencing new cities, new cultures, just being able to see beyond and experience beyond what I had known. Beaumont.
Oh, yes.
We toured while with Howard. We toured around the world. We were in Poland, England, at Balliol College. We were in Russia, in France. And so that experience came through talent, through the talent that I had. It made room for me. You've heard that statement before.
Yes.
And so, there's so many opportunities that you can gain from touring and experiencing other people, other cultures and what have you, that you won't get any other way.
What has the performing arts done for you specifically?
Oh my gosh, we don't have enough time. It really has, as I mentioned, opened doors for me. We, for example, Nelson Mandela toured America. He went to two cities, New York and Washington.
Okay.
as a part of the Howard University Concert Choir, I was singing a solo for his tour in Washington, D.C.
No.
I sang a solo with the concert choir for Nelson Mandela.
No.
Yes, absolutely.
What?
Now, where do you get that type of experience in any other field, right?
Oh my God.
And it was life-changing. Your perspective changes. When we were in Poland, this is just another example. We were in Krakow, Poland, I think it was. I think it was Krakow. And, I'm Protestant. But in Krakow, they had Catholic churches all over the place. And they have these altars that are, adorned with gold. They could be the poorest of communities. But they would make sure that these altars were amazing. They had the Black Madonna hanging on the wall. I'm coming from America, right?
Yeah.
When have we seen a Black Madonna?
Never.
Anywhere.
Never.
Exactly. The experiences changes your life. And so I saw an image, even though that's not my belief, but I saw an image that looked like me.
Yes.
And this was from a community who didn't look like me.
Correct.
But this was used predominantly in Poland. And interestingly enough, they had not seen many, or they didn't see many blacks, and they thought I was Cuban.
Okay.
Perhaps that was their experience, someone of color from Cuba. But yeah, that seeing the Black Madonna in an all-white church in Poland was life-changing for me. It changed my perspective of things. It gave me value, if you will, that is hard to explain, but it was life-changing. I met Lena Horne.
Not the beautiful songstress.
Lena Horne, my director, choral director, knew Lena Horne, and we were performing at the Kennedy Center in Washington. And he brought me to her dressing room. And I said, Lena Horne. It was amazing, I don't know if you know Jesse Norman. Jesse Norman was a black classical singer.
Okay.
Who's deceased now. Well, she went to Howard, and she came back and she did concerts and so forth. And he introduced her. Anyone familiar with classical field, they know Jesse Norman. She was an amazing, amazing singer. Who else? Andrew Young performed for, in Washington, there is so much exposure to so many different things, the National Black Caucus and all that. Well, they would call Howard to perform at some of these events and so forth. And so you meet these individuals. Aretha Franklin, the choir sang for
Not
Aretha
the Queen.
The Queen. I wasn't in that concert, but just to give you an example of the exposure that they had. So just a host of experiences like that. And I want to bring that experience to the kids here and the artists here in Beaumont, because it's possible.
Yeah.
I'm a living witness that it's all possible. And so that's why we do what we do, is so that students and artists in the area will know the intrinsic value that they have in their gifts.
Would you say that your intention with the plays that you do, being the artistic director, is opportunity for your kids?
Absolutely. Had I had that opportunity when I was younger, I think I would have gone a lot further, a lot sooner. It's even in the workplace, you see managers, quote, who are Caucasian, who are managers at 20 and 22 and 23. Well, how is that possible? Because
Opportunity.
they have opportunity. They have people who are in places who have taught them that skill set, or who is willing to give them the opportunity to learn that skill set. Same here. Why have them reinvent the wheel when I know how to accomplish that, how to
Yes.
do that, how to tour, why have them reinvent the wheel and waste half of their lives trying to learn those skills when our generation can teach it to them, you know? And so, so it's been amazing being back in Beaumont, you know, because I lived in the DC area for 15 years, and I vowed never to come back.
Really? Why?
Because I didn't think that there was opportunity here. And so, you know, as an older adult, I've learned never to say never, because you never know what you have to do.
It's true.
You know, my parents was everything to me, and so I came back to help take care of them when they were ill. And that's how I got back to Beaumont. And so with that experience, I had to create another career. And that's how I am where I am. And I wouldn't have traded for anything in the world. It's been an amazing ride.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, as we get ready to wrap up this interview, it's been amazing. Like, it's so much information that I did not know, which was visible during this interview.
A major invoice.
I know, like, what?
Who knew?
Who knew?
Yeah.
So do you have, my last couple questions, we talked about people shadowing. Do you have someone that's shadowing you so that you're able to pass on all of the knowledge and the information that you have?
That's a good question, and I don't at this time, but we are searching for a person that can fill that position when I'm not here. And we want the organization's mission to continue. And so we're looking for a younger person who have the vision to serve the community as we're doing now, and take on this mantle, if you will.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, the name of your company, if you will, is the Jonathan Williams Center for Performing Arts, correct?
Correct.
If people want to get more information or reach out to you, audition for one of your plays, how can they do that? I know you said that you guys are on social media.
Right.
What is your social media handle?
Well, on Facebook, it's the Jonathan Williams Center for the Performing Arts, and or if they're interested in learning more about the coming events, they can go to jwcpa.org, and the announcements for coming events will be there.
Okay.
Yeah.
And also, if they want to donate, would they go to the website as well to do that?
If they'd like to donate, there's a donate button there on the first page of the website. Or if there's some special handling of a donation that is needed for a corporate donation, they can call me at 832-888-0947.
Perfect, perfect. My final question for you, Mr. Williams. Who do you think would make a great guest on the podcast, but you have to help me get them on?
Well, I've mentioned throughout the interview my costumer. Her name is Georgia Williams. She is an amazing person, and not only that, she's an amazing artist. And so she's no longer costuming. She is retired from that field, but she is now quilting. And is actually an art exhibit displayed in several art galleries here in the area and nationwide. And so her work is of an amazing caliber that she won third place at an international art exhibit for quilting. And so I think that you would learn a great deal and enjoy speaking with Georgia Williams.
That is perfect. Well, thank you so much so much for being on my podcast.
Sure,
You have been
pleasure.
Amazing.
Thank you. I've enjoyed talking with you and sharing with the community.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching. You can get this podcast and all of my other podcasts on YouTube Podcasts and Apple Podcasts. And remember, you always have time to listen and learn on the go.
Ride with Crystal Petry, consultant, so inspiring, pushing you to your dreams. You can be anything, so it goes with purpose. It's time to make it happen.